Well, since there's only three of us in the room right now, four of us, if you want to introduce yourself, I'd love to know who you are so we can like make sure to target anything that might be of interest or specific interest for you. So if you just want to start.
We have four adult schools, and I am a resource teacher. I do professional development with teachers on curriculum, technology, and resources. So I thought this was perfect to see what kind of resources you have.
I hope this will be perfect. I think so. All right, welcome. No, she's important. She's nothing. She, yeah.
Large adult ed program. It's probably starting around 3,500 students.
Wow.
And I actually heard about your um, program from another session.
Okay. All right, great. All right, well, welcome. Thank you.
Thing related to the internet on it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But one of the things that I included was open educational resources, and I used the TSTM SkillBlox evaluation.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah.
And in the process, I was exploring the SkillBlox stuff that I thought I would understand better.
Great. Uh-huh. All right. Well, I hope the answer to that question is yes by the end of today. And Mary, I mean, you might as well introduce yourself. Yeah. So Mary's done a ton of work with us in open education resources and in our digital literacy work at World Education. So let's just dive in. So what we're going to be talking about today is a platform called SkillBlox, and I'm going to do a little knowledge check at the start to see what people know or don't know about it. But specifically, we're going to fly through a bunch of things on the how-tos of SkillBlox. There's lots of resources that are on our website on how to use SkillBlox, how to build SkillBlox, what it is. But what we're going to be focusing on is this is a platform that we've developed, and it is intended for having teachers create and organize open education resources into lessons or collections for students to get extra practice or remediation on a specific topic. And as we've been doing that, we're trying to navigate what supports do teachers need in order to build blocks, what supports do students need in order to use something that might have links to multiple different resources in the same place. And more importantly, how do we inspire sharing? Because what we see over and over again is reinventing the wheel. SkillBlox was almost kind of a nugget in our heads, but it was born out of, we were at an IDEAL consortium, which is this national consortium of state level PD providers for digital literacy and distance learning. And we always do a state roll call. And during that roll call, states were saying what their initiatives are, their major initiatives are. And there were three states that were all building out curriculum for North Star. And it was like, you're all, and this is before North Star had their curriculum, but it was just like, you're all doing the same thing. What if y'all worked together and you did one thing really well and you did it in a way so that all the other states could benefit from your work? And so we see that happening over and over again. And so the notion behind this is how can we get people, like a really good teacher that creates lessons to share? How can we get organizations to coordinate lesson development in a platform like this so they can share? Or even broader organizations. So we're gonna look at the journey that we've been going on and learning as we go, working with teachers to understand what those supports look like. So I've said the name SkillBlox and OER actually, but I just want to do a knowledge check. What are OER? So does anyone know what I mean when I say OER? What does it stand for? I guess is the first question. Open Educational Resources. And what does that mean to you? Go with free lessons. So they're typical, it's free. It could be a lesson. Yeah, exactly. So it could be free software, because that'd be open source. Can anyone think of a specific open education resource that you know of that is OER? So Moodle's an open source learning management system. But in terms of any like content or instructional resources, can you think of any OER? JSTOR is yeah, they have a repository and they have a lot of open education resources. Khan Academy is an open education resource. Yep. So they are Creative Commons licensed, and we're not going to get into the details of that. But essentially, like I've built a lesson in SkillBlox where it's like I wanted to do something with Khan Academy problems. Those problems are openly licensed. You could take those problems and make a worksheet out of them, as long as you're attributing that they came from Khan Academy. So OER is basically resources that people can reuse, can adapt, can redistribute, and they may have different licensing associated with them. And that licensing will tell you basically what like you can and can't do with it. And some are more restrictive than others. Yes. No, no. Khan Academy is completely free. And actually, all of Khan Academy, like not all of them, but we have a ton of Khan Academy in SkillBlox. Um, no, Khan Mingo is the AI, that's the whole generator thing. That's different. Khan Academy, like the original videos and the activities, those are all open education resources. Yep. Yeah. All right, so I've said it, but what do you think SkillBlox is based on what I described? And I think I described it pretty much in detail. It is a platform. Yes. Exactly. That is part of the equation. So teachers can add things into skill blocks that they then can share as lessons. The other half of that is we have over 10,000 open education and free resources in it. They're not in it, they're links to other websites, but they are organized by skills and frameworks like the CCRS and like digital literacy skills framework so that you can go to a particular skill and see free and open activities that align to that skill and then add them to a lesson or a collection or playlist, if you will, however you really want to use it, as well as add in and layer in your other resources that you might want to add. So it's all in one place, then you can share that with students or other teachers. Question, we won't really get into has anyone ever heard of an EdTech makerspace? Okay. So an EdTech makerspace is a professional development model that we started after we launched SkillBlox, and I'm going to fly through those slides, but essentially we realized that just having a bunch of resources that are open and organized is not enough. Teachers need to know what to do with those resources, how to use them. And so the EdTech Makerspace is service learning professional development that we basically work with teachers to either like understand a skills framework. So most of the resources that we're gonna be looking at today were actually curated and aligned by teachers. So they explored something like not Khan Academy, but Reading Skills for Today's Adults, which is an open education resource of leveled readings. And they took health literacy, that was the group, and they like they analyzed a framework and then they aligned the stories that from that library align to specific health literacy skills. We put those into SkillBlox so then you can go to something like communicating with your doctor and find the readings that align to that skill. So they're gaining skills and understanding how to think about frameworks. There's also a lot of resources that teachers have created through EdTech Makerspaces. So we might work with teachers to create vocabulary slide decks for specific topics. And then we make sure that they design them in the same way. So they're learning how to do good instructional design, how to design things so that others can actually use them. And then we add those as well. So we're trying to basically create this kind of ecosystem, if you will, of we have aligned content, but how can we inspire teachers to create and add content? And we do that in organized ways. And Mary has been instrumental in a number of the makerspaces that we've done. And we're going to actually have a financial literacy session after lunch that looks at the results of one of those makerspaces where teachers curated a bunch of financial literacy resources and designed things. And then what is TSTM? This is another fun adult ed acronym. So teaching skills that matter. And so that is an Octane initiative that don't think it's going to continue, but it doesn't really, it does matter, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's not going to continue because the skills do matter. It's things like critical thinking, problem solving, communicating, understanding others. So these are basically essential skills or employability skills. So the reason I bring that up is one of the big funding mechanisms that we have had to this point was to basically build out SkillBlox to support teaching skills that matter. So that's when I say we have financial literacy and we have health literacy and digital literacy. That's because those are TSTM topics. But that's the bulk of content in SkillBlox is aligned to those topic areas. So imagine you have this library of resources that align to these areas that are of interest and relevance to adult learners, which I should mention two things. SkillBlox is developed for adult learners. SkillBlox is free. Like everything's free. There's no freemium. It is completely free. And so that's what we're working with. So this is just kind of background knowledge. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to have you not necessarily knowing to open a skill block. I'm going to run through a skill block as though I was teaching with a block that I've created. And then we're going to walk through sort of how we've been working towards where we are in terms of having this platform and working on this TSTM project that has allowed us to build out a bunch of features where we are working with teachers to understand what do you need in order to be able to design a block that is good, and more importantly, to support you in sharing with others so that others are benefiting from each other's work and we're not all reinventing the wheel. The link here is a bit.ly link, so if you have a laptop or even if you have a phone, you can, I probably should have put a QR code, but these are the slides. They are also in the chat in Whova, so the link to the slides is in Whova. I encourage you to open that up because even if you don't want to like dive into SkillBlox and just want to observe, everything on the slides is linked, so as I'm showing it, you can pop open and explore those on your own. Yes. Yeah, so the address bar, yeah, if you type in bit.ly / the SB is SkillBlox CO COAB 2025, then that will launch the slides. And if you have the Whova app, you can just go to this session and the link is directly in there too. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a See, Think, Wonder activity, and I'm going to pop open a skill block. And this is really like what at face value, I'm going to ask one by one, what do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? So it's just things that you like literally come to mind as you're looking at this. So what are we talking about when we're looking at a skill block? And I'm going to go here. Yep, I could. That's it. There you go. Sorry, yeah, which might cause me some issues as we go, but we'll see. All right. bit.ly / SBCO 2025. Yeah. Yeah. If you click on that, it's going to open the slides. Yeah. So it's always available to you or for the next 6 months. And then it's available for $9.99. I'm kidding. Um, it's all free, right? You might need to refresh. Um, I had that happen for some reason on mine. Oh, wait. You know what? What victim blaming? I'm so sorry. I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. Oh, yeah, we're good at this. Yeah, exactly. Too long. All right, now I can't get rid of me. There we go. All right. All right, so we all got the link. Okay, so I'm gonna hop into this skill block now, and um, I'm just gonna go here and take a look. What do you see? Is my first question. So just literally face value. What are you seeing? Or okay, you're seeing a list. That's great. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. No. This is sometimes hard. Like for people just like, what do you see? Words. But it is a list. Okay. Yeah. What else do you see? Four different activities. You're making assumptions that there are yes, but yes. Yep. Yep. But there are four different things here. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. All right. What do you think? All right. You think there are links to activities? Well, that, yes, you have subjective understanding, but yes, you think they're free resources. That's correct. What the four, yeah, I guess there are technologies, a word in three of them. So, yes, this is probably related to technology in some way. It's a great observation. What else do you think? You think they're for teachers? Yeah. Okay. All right. What do you wonder? Yeah. Why is this important for you as a teacher, or as a student, or both? Yeah. So, why is this important? That's a great question. Oh gosh, this is good. Okay, what else? That's a great point too. Yeah. Okay. That which is a challenge with something like this. Um, yeah. Yes. This VCR is like really killing me. These are great. These are great. These are great wonders. And that's a good point. So yes, this is, as we've said, SkillBlox is a platform that has all the OER, but like, yeah, how old are they? Are they relevant to my learners? Are they engaging? Are they actually accurate? Is another thing that when you're dealing with free resources and just looking at things others have created, those are all things you wonder about the resources that are actually there. Deborah, you had another point? Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Right. Okay, so this is a skill block. This is an example of a skill block that I've created. I am in a student view of this skill block. And you can see there's also a title. It says who I am. This is what a student would see. You can also see that a student would also have the ability to print this. And just so you can see what that looks like, it's actually, I could print out a paper version of this. This may take longer than I think because of internet. Um, Oh, geez. Oh, it wants me to have a printer and all that. But this is a printout which gives students instructions on how to go to the site and to launch this. Students do not need an account to open a skill block, which is a very important. It's great and it's not. When you're doing a research study, people want to know student usage. And so there is that part of it, but like we know managing logins and all that is a challenge, and so it's trying to balance that in the world that I envision. It's just like I don't care, use learn, but we have this data thing. There is a QR code so that a student could scan the skill block and then launch the activities from their phone. Um, so this is one way that you can actually share, and I don't even know what this is going to do. Okay. And then there's other ways that I can share with students. I can share with Google Classroom. I can assign it in Google Classroom. I could just share the direct link, and we'll look at a few other things in here. So that is a skill block, but now I'm going to actually have us scan and open this skill block. Or actually, I don't want you to scan and open it. I'm going to walk through it as a teacher. I'm going to actually only ask you to do one activity in this skill block with me together, so that you can see how I might use this with students. Go ahead. Great question. We have not covered that, and that is one of the things that we're trying to understand is what do we need to provide teachers so that they can select activities and they can make decisions and understand, oh, if Deborah created this block, is it going to be relevant to my students? No, no, but these are the things people want to know. Exactly. And oh, all right. Yeah, no, I get it. That is a hard hill to crawl up. I will tell you that because that is, I am the worst salesperson, because I want to give everything away and people don't believe it. Yeah. Yep. Yes. 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 No. But maybe they could do these activities. It is designed for adults. It's designed for adults. So yeah, we're gonna go through all of this. Yeah. Right. All right. So, for the sake of time, I do want to go through this. So, as was mentioned, this is related to technology. The theme is, or the title is Technology and You. I, as the instructor who created this block, have a instructions to the student. So, this is what the student sees. You'll explore some of the effects of technology on mental health and loneliness. Um, and so I could share this with students to work through, but I'm going to actually walk through it with you. Or maybe I might actually ask you as a student to, I want you to read this article on your own. So this is an article from a website called GCF Learn Free, or GCF Global now. And they have a ton of great activities on digital literacy, on financial literacy, on workforce readiness. But here, and they have this really annoying chatbot now that I don't love. But this is an article that goes through what loneliness is and how social media and technology might be a problem. So it gets into, just too much usage, and how it can create like filter bubbles and things like that. Um, and provide some guidance to learners on how you make sure that you're protecting yourself against that. So now I'm going to do a poll, and I might switch this. I might actually have you do this poll before we do this article, but I am going to swap over to my instructor view. Because in there you're actually going to see there is guidance for me, the instructor, but I'm also going to, for this activity, I am going to share the QR code. So I want you to scan that, and this is a very quick poll that you will do in Google Forms. And so go ahead and y'all got it on your phones. It's like 5 questions. And what I don't know that I'm going to be able to do because I'm not logged in. 1 second. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to have to log into my other Chrome. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Oh, I'm gonna actually, I realized what I forgot that I've already done here. Yes. Yeah. Yes. All right. So I just went through the poll. If I was on my own computer, I would be the owner of this poll and I could do this as well. But I've set this form up so that if this is a generic one that everyone that I've ever done this with has taken, but you can click on see previous responses and then you can see how others have responded. Now, this would be a great like way to kick off like a math lesson or looking at like data. But this is everyone in the world, right? So there have been 41 responses of this. I could in my skill block, because I, as a teacher, have created this in a way that I want others to use it. You'll notice that down here is an adaptable version. So I created this so that you, as a teacher, could click on this and it's a template. And so you could click use template, and then it's you're getting a copy of it. And then you could run this poll with your learners and be actually actively discussing your learners' responses to this poll. So I share that because this is one of these things that we're trying to like, help teachers that are using skill blocks understand. If you put something there that's like fixed and only you can edit it, then it's good and someone might like it. But if somebody wants to tweak it or adapt it, the more steps they have to take to do that, the less likely they're going to do that. Deborah mentioned OER Commons, and OER Commons is a website, it's a repository that is just anyone can post anything, and I don't even know if they check half the time because sometimes, yeah. And so it's like I feel good that I've shared something, but can anyone really use this? For a number of reasons. I design a lesson in a specific way for my students. I have a lesson that has some sort of Kahoot, and there's a class code, and so nobody can see the Kahoot that like I shared. So that I'm done. Like never mind. So how do we help teachers understand how to like add things in a way that they make them shareable? Go ahead. You had a question. Oh, so I just added it as a resource in my skill block. So what you'll notice here is there's a bunch of instructor activities. So you'll see some grayed out things. So this is hidden. Yeah. So if you're looking at the block as a student right now, you cannot see that. So that's one point I'll make. And you'll also see there's instructor notes here. So if I toggle to what you're seeing, you can only see the activities. But we've built it so that an instructor can have their notes for themselves or for another teacher they're sharing it with. But when I share this skill block, if it's an instructor that's opening it, they see the instructor notes and all the guidance. If it's a student or even a non-logged in user, they only see the things that are intended for students. And that's just a matter of when you're building a skill block, which we will do very quickly, is just I can turn these things on and off. So I just hid that first activity, that reading. So now if someone was accessing it or if you refreshed your screen, you're not going to see that activity. So I can hide and unhide things. We've seen teachers actually build skill blocks and then have everything hidden. and then they make one activity visible, and then when students are ready for the next activity, they unhide the next activity, and they just students relog in and then they have access. I'm going to point out some other things in here. As an instructor, I see this, and you'll see somebody ask, what skills are these? So if it is something from the SkillBlox library, these logos do mean something. So if it has a logo, it is something that is in the library. And we have a select set of sources that we've pulled and evaluated. And so it's not just anything and everything. But so this is from Social Media Test Drive. One of our goals with SkillBlox is if you see Social Media Test Drive and you're like, wait a minute, that's an awesome site, and you go to Social Media Test Drive and you want to use all those lessons or GCF, then great. You have found a good resource that you may or may not use SkillBlox, but you now have this great website of lessons that you might use. We've just gone the extra step of aligning them. And so these little guys are the skills that these align to. So as I mentioned, we have, these are all organized by framework. So we have a digital skills framework, and these are the digital skills, maintaining well-being online, and use tech responsibly. And you can go into our library and find other activities that align to any one of these skills. Deborah? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, 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 yeah. I mean, that would be something that I would probably cover with my students like beforehand if I was doing it. This is very much on the fly. So, and that's a great note. As you said that, right? That's probably a good note for me to add, and I'll just show you how to I can do that. So, right. But and I could add that. I could literally add that to my skill block if I wanted to do that. Or I could, I could put in the student instructions how to, I could even add a link. So these are, if I click on this, I can edit my student note, and I could add like links if you have a Android and have a hyperlink to the video of how to do that. If you have an iPhone, have a hyperlinked video to do that, and then they have that before you and add the instructions before you launch the poll. So that's great like insight. And so yeah, you could make a copy of this and add that for your student. Right. Oh, absolutely not. And we'll talk about like what that is. I mean, even this article is not. Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. But this article, so GCF Learn Free, for example, and this is something that it's like it's seeing what works for you and your learners. This is certainly not lower level, and actually the GCF Learn Free has like videos. A lot of the articles have videos, and we have seen teachers when they're evaluating GCF Learn Free and thinking about using it, they're like, I just want the video. I don't want all the text around it. But they recognize that that's going to be helpful for their learners, but this whole article might be a bit too much because of the language load, right? Sure. Now, this is going to get into a whole other thing that we're not going to cover. You need to be careful about what you're plugging into AI and not, depending on whether it is actually openly licensed or not. So like just because it's free doesn't mean you can like copy it, plop it into AI. So one of the things that we have for all of these as you're building is it tells you actually what the licensing is of each of the activities. Yes. Yep. So these are the skills within our topical frameworks that they align to. So we have, and I'll show you the process of building a skill block in a second. So you can search by keyword in our library, or you can go to math, language arts, digital literacy, health literacy, and navigate to specific topics that you want. And then you'll see all of the activities in our library that align to that particular topic. And so this is one activity in a host of other activities in our library that align to this particular topic. Yeah, that's what. Yes. Yep. I'll show you that. I'll show you that when we get there. Um, no, you're fine. You're fine. These never go the same. Like this is what presidenting is. So in terms of just supports that we built in even before the study, we have the ability to print out or have a PDF. You can actually put a QR code up for the whole skill block if you want, depending on how you're building them, depending on how you want students using them. There is this code that if you go to the login screen, you just have to enter the code. So we've seen teachers just create printouts that have the codes. Mary actually and her colleagues in South Carolina, when we built SkillBlox, it was like very, very, very early on. They created SkillBlox for every single lesson in their curriculum, 200 of them with all the math resources that they had access to. And they just put spreadsheets together for teachers to put them out. This is the very start of the pandemic, so that teachers who needed online resources could do it. And we even have like the correlations to print resources for publishers that have partnered, so that if they had access to those books, they could at least point students to the lessons to have something. So how you share with students is up to you. As I said, Google Classroom and these other areas, we do want to add WhatsApp. That's one of our like priority features because of feedback that we've gotten from teachers and wanting that. Um, yeah, yeah. So we already looked at what skills were being developed because I showed you. But any other skills that you saw based on like how I described like some of this? So actually, I didn't even get into it. So also in this skill block, sorry, there is then a simulation. So this is a simulation that walks students through social media scenarios that they might encounter, and then asks them, "How do you feel?" Like, and it goes through things called red flag feelings, and media balance and oversharing, and thinking about like, is this too much for somebody to share? And again, just looking at the experience of being on social media and how does it make you feel? And then again, this is my resource. So this point actually, so these are resources that are user uploads. That's what that icon means. So when you see that, it is something that's been contributed or added by a SkillBlox user. So it's not default in our library. It's something that this person added, so that when someone encounters this, they know like this is, buyer beware. This is something that this teacher added. So it's not something that necessarily we've vetted and said this is a great resource, although it's from me. Like it's a great resource. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep. Yep.
About it. This is the block that
Yep.
I
So when you copy it, all of these things carry over. The notes, everything, and if you want to remove the notes or adapt the notes or change them, the stuff up here is fixed because it's like there. And when you add something and say recommend it for our library, we clean that up. A lot of people will post a video and say YouTube. It's like, well, that's not the source. There is a content creator that added that video to YouTube. We're going to put that as the source so that somebody knows that's the actual, yeah. Um, so yes, that's, you can copy, adapt, and then yes, or you can save this as is. So I own this, so this is why I see this. If you were viewing this as an instructor that's logged in, or a student logged in, you see a save icon, and you could save it as is, so that you don't have to do anything. Got it? All right. Um, so are these skills relevant to learners you work with? Like what we were covering that? Yeah. Okay. So this is getting into like relevance, and again, we try to have topics and resources in here that are relevant to adult learners. And I've walked through some of these, and so we're going to probably skip over these some of the slides that are after this. But I've shown you some of the things that I provided, like in terms of guidance for instructors or students. You mentioned something specific at the activity level of students would need to know how to find their screen time. But just in general, if you were encountering a skill block that somebody else created, what else would you want that person to provide for you to know how to use it with your learners? Okay. Description of how they use it themselves. What does that mean exactly?
So with that model, for example,
Mhm.
we want to know this, what we do for you.
Right. Excellent. Okay. And so this is a great example of that's a model. And maybe you're at a program that you want all of the teachers like, you know, teaching in that manner and having that format. So, like, this is one of the things that we're trying to think about. How do we let folks know, okay, this is how you build a skill block that is structured and provides that clear guidance so that if Deborah creates a lesson that uses that model and another teacher in the program wants to adapt it or use it as is, that they're all creating things in the same way so that again it's not we don't want a bunch of people just creating things like and just throwing them out there into the world. Like, how can we coordinate it so that people benefit from it? Go ahead. Those are all in skill blocks. Hmm. So, I mean, Applied Digital Skills is its own website and that has these structured lessons that students work through, right? So this is like you're collecting things. So I've seen skill blocks that others have created, that I've created, that maybe there's information about what a resume is, da 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 da, and then it's the applied digital skills. You know, you're going to build a resume now, and so this is something that is a set curriculum that students are going to walk start to finish through that project-based lesson, right? That is one thing that you might build into a skill block that has other things. Um, and so the teacher in that case needs to really provide guidance on, this is for you to learn about resumes. Maybe they're doing some activity where they're actually having students jot down their skills or previous jobs and they're doing some other activity. Maybe that's on paper. They're going to do some of that stuff like not on the computer machine before they dive into this lesson where they're going to actually take that, transfer it onto into something like a resume. So there is like the teacher needs to be creating things, and that's one of our findings. Obviously, we have some teachers, they love creating skill blocks. Honestly, if I could quit my job and just build skill blocks, that's what I would do because I love creating like engaging curriculum. You have some teachers that are like, what can I just take and use? And we're trying to marry the two, right? How can we help this teacher find another teacher or a program or something that these are ready to go for you? And we've started down the road of actually creating structured curriculum in skill blocks so that you have a trusted source and that you know all the lessons are the same. And then again, the teacher over here can use it as is. They don't even need to actually create an account. They can just share the skill block with learners, and the learner has a reading lesson. And then there's this teacher over here who wants to add a video. They want to add their own like KWL. They want to add this, and they can do that as well. So it's like fitting to different teaching styles, different methods, et cetera. Yep. Yep. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And we'll show you what that looks like. We have a college in Augusta that has built a whole course in here, and they have a page which is called a stack, which we'll get to towards the end. And there's individual blocks for each of the things that they want to students to do. You can add that. We do not have like a thing that's in there yet for that. We do have one of the things that we're not going to get into today, but if we're trying to engage teachers to actually have students log in, because one of the things that students can do is rate activities. And that's a mechanism that our pilot teachers right now can see. So we're trying to see, does that help teachers? But also students can indicate this activity took me this long. And it's not that's on our system, but we assume over time and usage that somewhere in that average is a pretty accurate representation of this is how long this takes. The question about the leveling is another thing that we are not dictating that. But one of the things I'll show you is teachers, when they build a block, can tag it to say, these are the levels of learners that I'm working with. And again, that's a data point that over time, the more usage and that a teacher is using these activities, and you'll see what that looks like. I will show you what that looks like. That okay, I'm seeing like 20 teachers have used this, and this is the level of learners that they've worked with. That can help teachers who are exploring the blocks themselves or the individual activities know, okay, this might be something that I could use with my learners. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And it's very portable, so you could actually share this. We want to get an embed feature. It's not there yet, but one of the things, and this is gonna you guys are great. You're asking great questions, so I'm kind of going to abandon the linear approach that I was going to take, and that's fine. So this is something that I, as a teacher, can do. I can tag it, right? So these are all of the ways that I can tag this. And one of the tags is I can say, this is a structured lesson for students to actually work through, or this is and it explains what each of these is. This is a resource set. So maybe it's like, I'm teaching fractions, but I just want to provide something that has a bunch of different activities, videos, things that students can go to and pick and choose and just get additional practice. Or I could tag this as an instructor reference. So maybe you don't want to use SkillBlox at all as for students, but you recognize it has great resources in there, and it's so much easier for you to find things because they've already been aligned, and you like Khan and you like this, but they haven't aligned that to the college and career readiness standards. So you create a resource set for yourself, and that's great. These are resources that I can use with students. And then I can actually copy these URLs and I could paste those into my Canvas course. So you're like creating this sort of reference for yourself or for other teachers of these are resources. That's kind of actually, I think the South Carolina model is more that in what they developed. I don't know that they were sharing SkillBlox with learners, but they wanted teachers to have a set of resources to know what they could use with their learners remotely, and then pick and choose from that block which ones they decided to share. Yep. So all your questions are great, and all your questions are the challenge of trying to make something super flexible, but also to help people understand like what use case makes the most sense for them. So these are great questions. Are there any questions in the chat, Mary? I'm sorry, like, and feel free to interrupt me. Okay. All right. Okay. Um, all right. So I'm going to move on. And so one of the things that I can do, so this is something that I provided, and I showed you that tagging shelf. So when you do that and someone sees your skill blocks, then they have this kind of information before viewing it. So I can see that I tag this to these levels. These are the skills. This is a structured lesson. It uses a Google Docs activity. It uses a Google Forms activity. That's one of the filters that you can explore other teachers' creations. So maybe it's like, I just want to see things that teachers are using word wall because my students like word wall activities or this. You can actually filter by those things. And then there's also information about like usage. How many activities are there? How many times have those activities been launched? How many instructors have saved this? How many students have saved this? And you can filter the SkillBlox library, the things teachers have pulled together by these things, so that Maybe you want to see the most instructor saves. That's going to be kind of an indicator that this is something that other instructors seem to like. And that's going to be an indicator that if that's the case, this probably is something that's more easy to use for me than if there are no instructor saves and number of instructor copies. You can also see the things from the library that were used in this block, and that's another filter. I want to only see skill blocks that use Khan Academy or only see skill blocks that use applied digital skills and see what teachers are doing with that. And you can do that. Go ahead, Deborah. So on the EdTech tools, and I'll go back to this. So this is where all that information is only available to other teachers if I, the person creating the skill blocks, provides it. And so this is where I can identify the target skills. It automatically gives me the skills that the activities are aligned to, but I could add additional skills that are built in. But to your question about the tools, oh, actually, that's not here. Sorry. That is at the level of when I'm adding something. So I added this resource. And so when I did it, I gave it a name, I gave it a URL, I indicated some of these things, and then I tagged it to what edtech tool I used for it. Um, sure, I'll show you. So say you copied this block and you want to add your own thing. Um, Okay, awesome. Yeah, so maybe it's like, oh, this is cool. We're gonna teach students how to use forms. I don't know if there's a Google Form applied digital skill lesson, but I click on Add New Activity, which is this red button, and then I add the details of what I want to add. So it's you cannot upload to SkillBlock. It has to be something that is accessible like through a URL. But you can give it a title, this the source, and this is where you could recommend it for the library. And again, it doesn't automatically go into our library. We vet it before we put it in there with other things. But then you can indicate what kind of activity it is, what the format is, and then if it's using an edtech tool, indicating that. Like I've become obsessed with Flippity. It's so easy to create and use, and it's a great manipulative that you can do in whole class or individual. So again, the more tagging you do, the more other teachers know what's in here and what they can do with it. Mm-hmm. Yep. It would have to be accessible through a share, like if yeah, if you add it to your drive, you have to set it to anyone can view. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So if it's URL based, we do not store anything actually. Yeah. So that's when you're adding your activity. You tag it as you're adding. So, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So this is an activity I added, and I can always go back and edit. Well, yeah. So I filled out all of this, and one of the things I filled out for this, and this was the same thing when I clicked that add. Uh-huh. This. Sure. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll get out of here. Yep. No, 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 but I know what she's saying. So if you found this skill block in the wild and you want to know what's in it. Yep. So that's an explore skill blocks. And I'm gonna go over, whoops, I don't know why it keeps bouncing like that. All right. So these are all blocks that have been like made publicly available. So if I click on any of these, I can I can see these details. All I do is click on this little expand, and that's where it's giving me all of the details, and then I can click launch to view it. Yep. So, and this is a place where I would recommend anyone start is because even if you don't have an account, I'm going to log out. So when you go to the skill blocks page, we have these preset filters. So if you want to see all the blocks that are public, that are health literacy, you can click on that and it's going to launch you into that particular page. And then you'll see all of these things. And then this is where you can filter and you're going to see numbers um, that are saying how many. So there's actually, of these 91 health literacy blocks, 15 of them also deal with workforce preparation. So I could, click on that and filter down, or I can select, it's telling me, so all of them or most of them have Google Docs, and that's because these are all the same kind of lesson on just different reading passages. So that's why that number is so high. But you can filter by all of these different things to narrow down to this is using tools I want. It's for certain learner levels that I want. And again, the only way this is there is if you, the creator of the skill block, is providing that. And that's been like an interesting part of our research is how do we inspire teachers to do that so that others know what they can do with it. I know, but I agree, but yeah. I mean, the number of things that it's like, what can it just do this for me? Like, no, we're not going to put in more restrictions. So what we've been trying to do, both in terms of our feature development as part of this project, as well as just our interaction with teachers, is understanding how to inspire more sharing. And we're going to slip through this. So long story short, back in 2017, we wanted to get people to use open education resources more. We knew they were using publisher materials. How do we get them to use open education resources more? And one of those things, we started with math, was let's align a bunch of open math content to the college and career readiness standards, because we know that that's what teachers are on the hook for doing. And so, okay, I can go to a skill, I can see what's available. Maybe in addition to that lesson, you throw a Khan Academy video in there or something that provides more opportunity for practice. And that's really what it's about, is like for something like ratios, there's a Khan Academy video that's out there, but you have to go to Khan Academy, find the video and lesson on Khan Academy. This is a great thing that was an NSF project called Math Snacks. It's about a woman who goes on a bunch of bad dates. And the reason they're bad is she and her date don't talk at a 1-to-1 word-to-word ratio. And obviously this one talks too much. Great fun video that helps you understand ratio. And she's like, excuse me, I have a call. And she calls her friend. For every one word I said, he said 7 words, 7 words. So it's like, what a better way than Saul Khan going 10 boys and 2 girls. Like, it's just much more engaging. And that's great. And then here's a simulation from a site called CK12 that has students exploring like how this ratio is going to adjust as you drive more. And then here's something called Math Snack, or not Math Snacks, Math is Fun, that has just structured lessons that are much more in a kind of workbook or textbook sort of format. And sometimes they have interactives, but you have to go to each one of these sites to find them. And so our notion was, we know that this came up earlier, we know that all of these things out there, but is it current? That was one thing. Is it accurate? Is it engaging? Is it aligned? So what if we align all of these resources to skills, and then teachers over time go, okay, I like that website. So I'm going to skill. I want to see things from this website that align to that skill and use that. That's creating consistency for my learners as well, that they're going to know that this is what I do when this is in a block that I'm doing. And it also just helps me sift. Or again, if I find something and I don't want to use SkillBlox, but suddenly this is just the magic website that I'm going to use for everything, great. We've done a service, because now you know a resource that you can use with your learners and use it however you will. So SkillBlox is, I didn't get into this, and I'm definitely gonna fly. We have till the top of the hour, yeah. So it is part of an organization or initiative called Crowded Learning that started as a nonprofit in 2017. We launched in March of 2020, like right when the pandemic started, which was just like timing great, because people were like, what is this? How do we use this? And then we realized we were doing many of the same things that World Education was doing as an organization. So we moved into World Education. And so the notion of SkillBlox is you can search by skill, You can find learning activities that align to that skill and then put them into a block that you customize and share. And as I said earlier, one of the things that we realized out of the box is, wait a minute, like just because these resources are available, teachers need to know how to use them and how to implement them effectively. So we started a service learning model called the EdTech Makerspace. And so we teach teachers how to create or curate open education resources that ultimately end up going into the SkillBlox platform. So the platform is only as good as the content that's in it. The feature development is just happening as it happens when we have funding. But the more use we have, the more creativity that we have, and the more sharing we have, the more people will come back and explore and find new things that they can use and adapt as they see fit. So as I noted, we're part of a research study that our last big round of funding development was focused on building out skill blocks to support teachers who are implementing the teaching skills that matter framework, which is 5 topic areas: health literacy, financial literacy, digital literacy, civics education, and workforce preparation. Layered into that, having skills like critical thinking, problem solving, communication. And so what we've been doing is building out content that aligns to those topics, building out ways that teachers can tag to the topics and the skills, but then also working with teachers to be like, what is a good TSTM skill activity? Like, just because a student is like reading out loud, that does not mean they're communicating. So if you're going to design an activity in your skill block, what does that look like in terms of what are students doing that's actually helping them develop like true communication or problem solving skills? And again, how can you provide that guidance so that other teachers know that, oh, I will have students do these discussion questions on this reading. When was the time you were in a similar situation to this person who had to call in sick? How did you handle that? What did you know to do because of your workplace structures? Just asking those questions layers in those skills, but having that guidance for both how you're going to teach the lesson and how others would use it is important guidance to provide. Tomorrow, we actually have a whole deeper dive on like what the whole research part of this project has been. I'm going to very quickly walk through building a block so you can see that because we are very short on time. But just to note, we have a bunch of resources that have been aligned in SkillBlox. And again, we have math, reading and vocab is brand new, and language in terms of being aligned to standards. We have a lot of digital literacy content, and then areas in these other TSTM skills. So you've seen a lot kind of indirectly. This has never gone this way, but I really love the questions you're asking. So you've kind of already asked the questions that I was going to cover. So I'm just trying to cherry pick the important salient points. But I do want to show you how to build a block. And I'm going to have to log in. So I am Billy Blox. And Rachel Riggs is also Billy Blox. And next year, we definitely are going to have a Billy Blox costume. Like, with the black leotard arms and the Mickey Mouse hands and like, just be prepared. All right. So this is your lightning round of how to create a block. All of these, there's videos on our website that have exactly how to do this that my colleague Justine created, and they're beautiful videos. But I can search by keyword. So I'm going to show you 2 things. Keyword search is as a keyword search would be. So if I want to type in email, I can do that. And then I'm going to see all of these activities that have been tagged or aligned to things like anything email within it. But again, if I love GCF, then I could go to GCF Learn Free. I can narrow it down to, okay, this is a resource that I like, that I know my students like, and I can do that. I can also, if I know there is a resource in here, Ellie is a publishing partner that's downstairs, and they're wonderful. They have these really great polls that are free. You have to have an Ellie account to use them with your students. I don't know why that showed up. Oh, because probably I didn't type in. Well, actually, I could just go here. I don't know what word has EL. This is like a Wordle right now. ELLI. What would be causing that to happen? It is another I. Yeah. But anyway, so they have these great polls. So if you know the name of a resource, you can just enter that in and see what's available. We want to build a page that just has you can start with the resource. That's not there yet. But then to your question, we can go to subject area frameworks. And so if I go to math, I can see the CCRS levels. If I know I read level C, it's going to narrow down the domains to those. I can go to geometry. I can go to this particular standard. And then I click on that standard, and then I see all of the activities that align to that standard. The ABCD are the CCRS levels, the college and career, which CASAS is aligned to. Yeah. So very quickly, I mentioned here, I can see this has been used in 59 skill blocks. But one of the things you can't do, but I can, you will be able to do in June when the research study is over, is sort by number of blocks. So I can see this has been used in 73 skill blocks. It's probably worth exploring. Um, None of those have been made public, interestingly enough, but if they've made them public, and this is one of our challenges, what we want is if people have made their blocks public, I can go, oh, this is an interesting activity, and I can click, and I don't know why, I thought many of these were. Here's one. So I could click on this, and this, which has been used 37 times, or wait, that is a zero. God, I don't have my reading glasses. These are my bifocals. This is why you know you're getting old. Um, Yeah, so they've made them, but it's not shared. What you can do when there is a number there is launch and see the list of skill blocks that have been used. So maybe somebody's already done something that is very usable to you. Yep, correct. They've built a block that they're using with their students, but they have not made it public, which is one of our things that we're trying to. A majority. Yeah. But a lot of it is the education campaign of like we need people to share, right? We need to get more people to share what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's right. They're taking. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the more restrictions you put, it really is like it's so interesting. I've never built a technology like, and I'm not the person actually building it, but like just the littlest thing can really trigger somebody. And so it's like you really need to not be restrictive on some of these things. So I'm gonna fly ahead. That's how you create it. Sorry, I've never finished that. So I can Yep. Yeah. Oh, well, no, the activities are available to you. What it's saying is 73 teachers have used this in a block. So you have access to the activity. Yeah, it's just telling you the usage. And ideally, if they've made it public, it's not just saying this person used it, but you can see what this person did with it. That's the public part. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yep. Yeah, so no, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. So I've built this block. I can add those notes as I mentioned. And then I can add summaries. I can add a title. I can set my sharing. I can make it so others can copy or not. I can make it public or not, which most people are not doing. And then this is how I share it with students as well. And then this is where I do all that tagging that I was pointing out. I do want to point out just a few things since we are out of time. But the slides kind of walk through all of this, but this is one thing that I wanted to show. So what we've seen is you've got some trusted people that are building interesting things. They can create a profile, and you can click on their names and go to their profile page and see the other things that they've created. But we've also seen people using these in different ways. So I mentioned that one program has created, this is called a stack, which is a page that you can add your public blocks to. So in this case, they've created blocks that are public for this healing-centered engagement course. It's a certification course that they've developed. And so all of these are blocks to the point that you made, you have these large units. So each one of these is a different module. They didn't want an LMS. They were like, it's pointless. We don't need that for this. We want to make this openly available. And so they've been building this out. This is an organization that it's a tribal organization and it's a connected learning center. And they've actually created digital literacy lessons, but then they also have provided just resources for their organization as blocks. So it's not even a learning object, it's actually just materials. And then finally, something that we've developed is leveled reading stacks. So these are pages, and again, these are all linked in the slides, but this is like 60 plus leveled readings. I can open any of them. A lot of them are on like parenting and safety. But I can open this, and this is at CCRS level A. So this is my instructor view again, but this is the student view. And the student has a vocabulary activity they can do. They have the reading, and this is really killing me right now when showing this all the time this week. But this website, they have something going on that they're trying to fix, and that's why that's there. That's not normally there. But they have 345 stories. So we have 345 lessons in SkillBlox that have a vocabulary activity that go with it, that have the reading, and then have this comprehension check. And remember what I showed you earlier. This is student facing. This, we get the results. These quizzes have been taken over 30,000 times by learners. Um, but you as a teacher, if you're logged in, you have that template and you can make a copy if you want to use this with your learners. So you could select the stories that you want from that page that I just showed you. Use those, add those to your blocks, add whatever you want. All of them also has a worksheet that's a printout that has vocabulary activities, speaking activities, writing activities, a language activity, and then use that with your students as you wish. So we're moving towards recognizing, long story short, that like organizations want to like create hubs, then everyone kind of knows that it's coming from them. And so that's another area where we're trying to help people understand how to do that. We're starting to do that with reading curriculum. And what that is like these are stacks that you can build with the blocks that you create, and you build the blocks with activities. And so that's kind of it is, yeah, it's like the Maristroika dolls. Like, it's just like, boop, boop, doop. And just one thing, again, this is in your slides. I was never planning on really diving into this anyway. But actually, I was going to show one thing. This is going to be interesting to you. We did take some of those stories and actually build a curriculum. So there's actually reading skill lessons. It's not just practice. It's actually instructor guidance on how to teach, asking questions to identify details, main idea and details, sequencing, understanding author's purpose. All of those are things students could just do on their own, but they're also things that you can adapt, which is a common theme I've shared. This is an exciting one that if you are a foundational language teacher, I encourage you to explore. We have friends in Scotland that approached us and they wanted to get their, it's called Citizen Literacy Program, into SkillBlox. This is not something you would share with a learner, but it is something that they have a tutoring training and all that for. But these are very mobile friendly activities that is not the right link, but we'll get there.
This is the first activity of lesson 1. Introducing the first
accent.
group of new sounds and ways of spelling. Tap each.
Ah. S.
Correct. Tap the speaker to listen.
S.
These are as simple in terms of the interaction as you
Tap
can
the speaker
possibly
again for the
get.
next sound.
And it is at the most foundational level. Letter sounds, blends, like it. And so for these, we worked with them to create detailed guidance on what skills are happening in each activity, what the sounds are. They all, actually I need to add the guide, but they have this information to help you understand where this is coming from. But there are 10 lessons in here, a total of like 145 activities that are all at that very, very, very foundational level. And there's actually writing, like writing the letters. That's like a trackpad type thing. It is for you would share it with students, but you wouldn't throw the block at a student. Yeah, but you would work with the student with it, or maybe share the individual activity directly to it. You wouldn't share the block with students. But what they were lacking, and this has been an interesting thing that we see, is we'll see people create really great things, but the guidance is over here for how to use the lesson. The lesson's over here, and it's just like, how do I use this? So we worked with them to where's your instructor guidance for this activity? Let's put it right here. These are all of the activities in this lesson. That's right here. Okay, oh, the skills they're doing is over here. Let's put it over here. Now the teacher knows right here all of the things that are covered and what you're doing with this lesson, what words they're using. So this is the sounds, and they're plugging them into the words. So we're moving into this world of curriculum and trying to create these like curriculum pages or stacks that have lessons that are all the same that students can use. And that's kind of it. If you want to follow our research, all of the features that anything that was hidden, which actually isn't much anymore, that are reserved for our research study, those are going to be available in June. Hopefully, we actually get to compile the research for this study. In the upcoming year, which is to be TBD, but hopefully that continues. But we have guidance. We have a PDF that has all of the frameworks that's available on our SkillBlox website. And just things like how we've evaluated the resources that go on here, as well as an activity design guide that basically provides guidance for teachers that are creating activities to just think about how to make them more openly accessible and shareable, and that they're easy for students to use. And that's it. So I know we went a little bit over, thank you. But this was like great. You had great questions, and I hope I answered all of them. I can stay if you have any additional questions. But all right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yep. So So yeah, for monitoring, obviously we can't like if you've created something, you've created something. But I as a teacher, so I'm gonna go to explore skill blocks here. And I don't know who this is, but they created this naturalization citizenship block. So we'll see. I mean, nope, maybe they didn't. Let me go to someone else's. I've created a lot in here. So I'll go back to that certification course. And if I launch one of these, so say one of these links is dead. First of all, this is a read-only version. So I don't own it, so I can't do anything with it, but I could save it. They've made it so I can make a copy. But if I see something in here that like doesn't work at the bottom, I can report an activity and I can indicate that it's a broken link or that this doesn't work. And so if it's like something that it's gone, we will remove it. And then anyone that encounters that blocks after that, it's like blurred out and it says this activity does no longer exist. You can delete it. But yeah, if it's something that we own, we at least can then like see that we get a cue and then we fix it. Yeah. So, yep. Anyone else? No, they were an early adopter. So we started a nonprofit that was kind of focused on open education resources. Me and my colleague Jen Vanek. Well, I worked in publishing, so I worked for McGraw-Hill, and it was something that I was just getting frustrated with because our funding was less and less because it's like adult ed is not a huge moneymaker. And so it was like we're just churning out workbooks, and I'm like, that's not teaching. Like it's just practice. That's great. There's all this really good stuff out here. Um, I actually went to them with the idea first. Like, what if we did this? This would be a really cool service. It would make people really like McGraw-Hill. They're, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, all the publishers got bought by private equity, and you know how private equity operates. Yeah, yeah. So, so it was like the writing was on the wall that you're not going to do this, but like we like that reading skill for today's adults, minus that big banner that they have right now. It's just like it's a treasure trove. It's just they're open. You can take them, you can adapt them. We see teachers doing really cool things with the stories, and it was like so many. I would stand at this conference from for McGraw Hill and people would be like, do you have lower level readings? Do you have earlier level readings? And it's like, no, but like there's this website that it's free. Like, oh, there. And so it was like trying to increase awareness of what's available for teachers. And, you know, obviously in the current climate, free is really important. Um,
Really lower level. I was just, what you were saying, when you were showing that
yeah, that is something that could be used for anyone learning language. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do once, probably early next year, we're gonna do a webinar, or next school year, we're gonna do a webinar with the citizen literacy folks so they can share that program because it's really good. I don't need to be on this. Thank you folks for joining. Yeah, thank you.